Hi everyone and welcome to Heartcore Healing. That's the name of my channel and my name is Sue Quigley, and in this video we're just going to be doing an update on the energies around the month of June. We're at midway point in 2023. It's been quite an eventful year so far. So what can we see that June is going to bring us? How can we work with those energies? What do we need to be aware of? What are our things, our messages to consider? Now, I get a lot of channeled information. I have a group of guides that I work with. We are a team. I am as much a part of them as they are of me. So sometimes it feels like there's no separation. But I know that I'm working with divine energy, divine information, and that's how I bring my words through. I'm going to be using an oracle deck as a tool to help me with those messages. And I'm just going to launch straight in because I feel there's some things that just need to come out and need to be said. The oracle deck I'm using this month is Seasons of the Witch, the Beltane Oracle. And before you jump up and down, yes, Beltane was the 1st of May, but I had no choice. This deck was calling to me. It needs to be used for this month. And this is by Lorriane and Juliet Diaz. And it's a really beautiful deck. I've not used it before in kind of public or group readings, but it's a gorgeous deck. I mean, look, for a start, look at the gold on the side there. Really nice deck. And I'm going to confess, I'm not the world's greatest card shuffler. I'm more fingers and thumbs, but it's a really lovely deck to shuffle. It kind of just glides. And it's interesting actually looking at that colour on there. I don't know whether you can see the right colour, but golden, the golden tones and the gold colour on the card deck. As I was sitting to get ready to do this reading and wondering what energies would come through, I got a vision of the signature colour for this month, which is going to be all the golden hues, golden brown, golden yellow, those orangey golden tones, you know, those rich yellowy golds is very present for this month. And it shows me that may sound a bit logical, but things are brightening up. The energies this month are going to feel very different from May. May felt really not, yeah, it was heavy at times, but it was also tricky. It was a bit combative, knocking heads together, it felt like sometimes, and a lot of going backwards and forwards doing stuff. Of course, we had all sorts of solar activity going on anyway during May, which didn't make it that easy, but things seem to be leveling out a bit. Now, it could be that things are leveling out because they're getting better, or it could be that calm before the storm, because I still think we are going to get some interesting things emerging. I think there are going to be some things that play out on the world stage in front of us that are going to get us to go, really? It feels like some unreal things are going to unfold, or some things that are just going to be quite shocking. They're going to be not what's it, and for some reason I'm getting sometimes while the theme or the content, the story might not be that shocking, the people behind it are. So in terms of, you know, you might hear about somebody committing a crime and you might think there's crime being committed all the time, but it's the person that commits the crime that is the shock. It's the least expected person to do it that emerges as the criminal. Does that make sense? Does that example, weird analogy, makes sense? So there's going to be some things that are going to be quite shocking, quite least expected, shall we say, in a world where I think we're seeing everything play out at the moment. But it's going to be some surprising characters are going to emerge. That's what I'm getting a feeling of. But anyway, this reading is for you and I, is for us and our personal evolution and development, our personal growth path. How do we navigate these weird and wonderful times? So what's the first thing that this beautiful oracle deck wants to bring us? And it is the card of surrender. Now, what can I say on that? There's nothing more blissful than the act of letting go, of setting yourself free of all that doesn't serve you. And that beautiful picture there. And she's surrounded by bees. I also feel there's something significant about the bee. It's like Queen Bee, that sovereign being again. You know, I said about us being sovereign this month, but also walking a different path, I also want to say. So surrender means quite a lot to me. I think this year I finally understood what surrender means, because it's a bit, you know, sometimes these words get bandied around and we don't exactly know, well, how do I surrender? But it's just allowing things to be. When you feel there is a way to do something, sometimes your mind will come in and tell you to do it in a different way. But this is about trusting what's emerging inside and those little nudges that you get. Just as an example from myself, the beginning of this year, I came off Facebook, came off Instagram, and I'd got business pages on both of those under Heartcore Healing, and I just came off it because I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And mostly it just felt like a really good idea. And I just followed that feeling, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go back on in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And here I am 6 months down the line, and I've got no plans to go back on. And I think for me personally, it was because I needed to have a break. I needed to surrender to allow something else to come through. And it's that kind of surrender I want to speak about now, in that we just stop fighting. We just stop that inner battle, and we just allow whatever needs to come through, and trust that even if it feels really subtle, even if it just feels like a good idea, that we just trust that it is right, that it's coming from a place of deep knowing, and let it go and allow something different to come through. Allow maybe life to take you on a slightly different path. There's nothing more blissful than the act of letting go. I mean, how true is that? When we can just give up the reins of things that seem to hold maybe sometimes too much responsibility, or just heavy feelings, you know? Maybe we need to trust our own wisdom and inner guidance, and those things that just seem like good ideas, maybe they are the best ideas, and we need to follow them. So I'm feeling like sovereignty, understanding our own sovereignty, understanding that whole, I haven't mentioned this, but that whole thing about the solar plexus, that golden yellow of the solar plexus, which is all about our own will, our own motivation, but importantly, who we are, our own identity. This month is about going to that place, that solar plexus part of us, which sits just below the rib cage. It's kind of that central part of us, that soul part of us, allowing our energy, our awareness to sit in the energy there and pull in that golden yellow colour and sit with it and see what emerges, but also allowing some things to break away, some things that don't serve us anymore. And they might be things, they might be habits or ways of being that we've held on to for a long time, that we're just worried about letting go because we're kind of familiar with them. And yet we know it's time to let them go, isn't it? Sometimes I think we can hold on to the reins of the things we know, but then it stops us being who we're supposed to be, or finding out what we're supposed to find out about ourselves, or going down a different path, a different route that seems very new, very different, but it's just trusting in that. And I always say trust and surrender absolutely go hand in hand. So this definitely is a month for trust, for following that inner guidance. And so we're off, aren't we? We're off on the golden path. That's interesting, isn't it? As I think last month's card were wisdom of the golden path. I seem to have gone opposite ends using the oracle decks, using Beltane this month and the golden path last month. But let's carry on. Yeah, it seems like let's follow the golden path this month for June, and see what it's pushing us to do. What are we letting go of? How can we emerge even better into a space that's a bit unknown? I have to look at what something about the bees. There's something about bees. I don't know what bees as a spiritual symbol mean. Is it abundance or something? Is it hope, emergence? But there's something about the bee. I know there were the bees on that card, and they've got bees on the back of this card. But anyway, what else? So we know now that surrender is the way to go, or allowing our own self to emerge, that true self to emerge, delving into and embodying our own sovereignty. Hand fastings. The pools pulse through all that I am. No hidden form is left untouched. I am willing. I am risking. For I yearn for unity spilled lustrously upon my lips. Unity. Community. And I also want to say, feeling the familiarity of friendship. I think this is about that deep resonance we can have for being in kinship. That's not a word I usually use. In kinship with others. Yeah, there's something about community in this. About allowing ourselves to connect with other people in our community, and there's something about providing as well. So providing for the community, even if that is just with a helping hand, a kind word. You know, how many people do we pass in our street, in our local town, that we don't even look at, let alone just give them a smile or a good morning? Let's change that. Let's go out and being happy in our place of being, and show that. Just a friendly smile to somebody, a kind word. Hello can be the kindest word you say to somebody. It's just that, but there's something coming through about acceptance as well. So as we emerge, as we understand our own sovereignty, so too we can understand how we resonate with other beings, other sovereign beings. There is a draw, a pull together that keeps us all stronger together. But it is about our respect of self and respect of others, allowing ourselves to be who we are as we allow others to be who they are as well. So this path that we might tread, the path of sovereignty, the path of knowing who we are and allowing our true self to come through, is also one where we have to allow others to do that as well. And I'm feeling that there might be some, feels like energies that might sort of clash, bounce together, because people have that feeling of themselves, but it comes up against maybe family members, maybe old friends, and suddenly the emergence of a new you can cause a bit of strife. People suddenly who thought they knew you, suddenly don't feel they know you or recognise you or even agree with you. And it's knowing that whilst that might happen, sometimes it can come when we're met with not necessarily aggressive, but opposing views. It's for us to understand that sometimes opposition comes from fear. Sometimes opposition is from a fearful position. Somebody that no longer recognises you is fearful that they might lose you, or they're fearful because they suddenly don't know how to be with you, or your new self is triggering responses in them because they know they are not being true to themselves. So there's a lot that can go on when sometimes we're met with opposing views. But what this is asking us to do is to be mindful of that, is to understand that, and while we allow our own sovereignty and our own certainty of who we are to grow, we also need to let our love grow, let our acceptance grow. And if that means standing back a little while we allow others to come to that point of change, to come to their level of understanding and acceptance, then we do that, because patience is also called for with this card. When we look at unity and community and cooperation, when we look to allow others to be their true self, allow others to allow the emergence of their own sovereignty, then we have to be patient that they might take a little longer than us. So that's interesting, isn't it? We must allow others the space to grow and emerge at a pace that is right for them, that might be different to our own pace. Yeah? So the message around sovereignty for self is also around allowing sovereignty in others as well. And whatever form that might take, we mustn't judge other people as they go through their own journey of self. You know, we might feel that we are really getting to know who we are, but you know, it isn't a straightforward path. There's many twists and turns, and you know, sometimes we end up going down very different paths to end up coming all the way back again. But we have to go that route first. Oh gosh, cards have gone all over the place. And so we must be understanding and accepting of others if their path is a bit wibbly wobbly as well. The rowan tree. I've just done a sort of mid-May. It was a late mid-May update, which was all around nature. So it's nice that I get something like this. The rowan tree. There is no need to fear, dear one. Protected you are, and protected you always will be. This comes on the back of the card around unity and acceptance of others, and that fear, the opposing forces are coming from a fearful place. So we must not fear either our own emergence, our own path of sovereignty, our own path to discover our own true self. Sometimes when we come up against people who suddenly go, oh, I don't know if I like the change in you now, sometimes that makes us fearful, and we retreat back to the person that we used to be. You know, it's very difficult when you do start awakening, start changing, because it can bring up all sorts of issues. But don't fear the change. Don't fear changes. When it comes from the right place, when you feel that things are right to go the way that you are going, then you will always be protected. You will do. And there might be things play out that are a bit difficult, but it's all there for our own learning, for us to experience, because we move from that experience into a greater state of being. You know, our biggest growth often comes from difficult times. Our biggest transformations come from difficult times. We only learn from getting things wrong or things that aren't quite right from the difficult times. It's where we emerge with grace. And with grace seems to be a theme as well, that as we go through difficult times, we must always be graceful with them, how we treat them and how we treat others. This is a real learning path for us. This is going to be quite a learning month. You might be exposed to different people with opposing views, and you may feel, I don't want to say under threat, it sounds a bit too sinister, but you may feel a bit got at, but understand the place that they are coming from, which is usually fear. there is a fear in there. Fear is behind anger. I think we only ever come from one of two places. We either come from love or we come from fear. And you know, when we use that as a benchmark to ask ourselves how we are experiencing things, well, am I coming from love or am I coming from fear? Then we get a very different insight into how we are behaving. And so if we use that for other people as well, it gives us a bit of an insight into their behaviour. And, you know, we have to have our boundaries in place, but we can still be understanding. We don't have to put up with bad behaviour or anything that's really bad against us, but, you know, we can always deal with it gracefully, and we can always put that energetic shield in front of us. But all part of allowing others to grow while we grow is accepting that there's sometimes a space between us. But always know, nature will support you. So if you listen to the video I did previously in May, nature is our support system. That will back up what I've just said. But you know, no, we are always protected, we're always supported, we're always looked after. We just have to make sure that we're looking in the right places for that. And definitely the rowan tree, any tree in nature is there to help and assist and support us. And so we just have to lean into that. You know, we have to really understand that and take it as true, and use it. Use nature's abundant support system in helping us regroup when we need our energy reboost, when we need some support, when we need some resilience. Nature gives us that, and I think the rowan tree card here is supporting that message. So what else can we expect this month? I said there's going to be some things playing out on the world stage in front of us, some things that are going to be quite shocking. But we must always trust our own senses. We must always trust what we feel is true. And sometimes we have to pull back from situations and sit with ourselves just quietly for a few moments to then get a sense of what's real here. You know, what do I need to know about this situation? Oh, so I said I kept getting the B, didn't I? And I wasn't sure what it actually meant. Well, looks like we might get to find out, because the card now is B. Don't drink all of life from one flower, for there are many to taste and many to explore. How beautiful. And this is really emerging for me to say, there is never just one way for all of us. There's never one truth for everything. We will never know the true meaning and truth of life and our existence here until we've actually moved on from it. For now, we can only trust what we know to be true. But also, I think we should also experience and hear different ways of being, different opinions on things, and different ways of doing things for us to find what's right for us. And it may be that we have multiple things that feel right for us and that we enjoy living and being with. It may be that we find one truth that is for us and we keep to that. But life gives us so many different opportunities. I think we should try and not close our minds to certain things, to certain... So I feel that this is about kind of like spiritual knowledge. Like sometimes we might feel we know everything and we know nothing. I also think the more I know, the less I actually know. It seems like the more I know, the more I realise there is to know, and it is endless. And as my knowledge of life deepens, I just sometimes find God, how do I even explain this? I have a knowing about stuff, but I can't even use language to articulate it. And I think when we look at the bee, Queen Bee here, I think it's getting us to choose opportunities that are going to help us grow and that are going to expand our awareness even further. I feel like there's going to be news at some point about a kind of new understanding. It's almost like it's not exactly a scientific breakthrough, but it's almost like, but you know, at the moment we keep hearing stuff that gently trickles out about UFO sightings or communication with far-flung galaxies, communications from alien ships. And this news seems to be buried, but it's coming out more and more often. And it's coming out from sort of high-profile sources. You know, we've got information coming out of the Pentagon. There's also information out from other science outlets. And you know, so not your typical, as they would be called, conspiracy theorists, but, you know, well-regarded organisations, shall I say. And so we mustn't close our mind to the possibility that we are going to be receiving news that appears almost, it's like we're watching a Hollywood movie maybe, you know. That there is communication with outer galaxies, that we are not alone in this universe. And I'm using that as an example to say we must never close our mind to things, because I think what's going to be emerging, and not just in June, over the next couple of years, is going to be stuff that's really going to expand our thinking. And for people who would describe themselves as skeptics and non-believers, I think it's going to be a real mind-blowing few years. I think there are things going to come out that are really going to test people, stretch them to the point of, yeah, I don't know, my whole belief system has now completely crumbled. I think what the B is here to tell us is that we must view our own belief system with a bit of a pinch of salt and be prepared that we might have that shaken a little bit. You know, reminds me, if you like, of the Tower card in the tarot deck. You know, we've got a tower of our opinions and our beliefs, and they're very solid, and I know what I know. And then all of a sudden we get one piece of information and the whole lot starts to crumble. I think we are going through a bit of a tower moment anyway. But, you know, our personal tower moments in the tower of our hardcore beliefs and opinions, I think, is set to start to wobble. So the B card is really asking us to not hold on too firmly to that, to explore, to open our minds, to always be curious and just see what's going to emerge. Because I think when news like that does come out, it's not to, you know, it's okay to have your mind blown occasionally, but we don't want to be absolutely rocked to our core so it becomes something that is so unsettling we feel we can't live with it. So have your own pinch of salt with your own opinions and beliefs, and just be prepared that there might be some news that comes in that kind of gets us to think again, or gets us to question what we thought we knew to be true. So I'm going to reinforce what B says, because it seems quite important. Don't drink all of life from one flower, for there are many to taste and many to explore. And it feels like I don't even think all of those flowers are on this planet. I think there is something emerging in the wider universe. There might be flowers out there that we are yet to know and explore. Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? Okay, how can I round off this month? So one card to round off the energy reading for June. What can we expect this month? What more can we expect apart from sort of intergalactic communications? What else can we get? What else can we have, please? Okay, let the cards settle. Well, one card's just jumped out. Goddess card. So think about all the messages about being sovereign, about what we might believe in. The Goddess card. Make sure to feel it in your bones, for you are what you believe. So if we are what we believe, then we need to believe in something special. So knowing who we are and allowing our true self to emerge, allowing the goddess, the God to emerge in us, will see us all right this month. Knowing our sovereignty, allowing the goddess and the God to emerge in others as well. But knowing who we are, thinking about who we are for what we think we are. Yeah, so it's definitely a month for the solar plexus chakra and those golden yellow tones, those beautiful gold elements to come forward. The solar plexus being the core of our soul, the core of our existence. It's our will, it's our motivation, it's that sense of who we are, it's our identity. And with all our energy centers, the solar plexus being our third energy center in the human system, it's about the truth of who we are. So this is very much about getting us to connect with that truth inside us. And June, I don't know why, it seems to sit very well with me that our 6th month, halfway through 2023, is really getting us to focus on that core, on that sovereign self of who we are, and allowing our truth to rise, especially when we might be considering communication from out of this world. Then imagine if we had sort of contact from outside of our own universe, from the other galaxies, and I view that with a peaceful communication, then surely we want them to see us, the human race, in our best form. You would want people to see us at our best, wouldn't we? So let's be our best selves. And June is certainly the month to certainly start putting that to the test, certainly start putting that in action. So lean into that. Use the golden energy to help you find that search, to help you sit with that sense of self. And I wish you a very golden June, a very light and wonderful connected month of community and resonance. And I'll be back on again shortly to see what other messages we can bring through. I'm very much feeling, and I mentioned this at the other video that I did earlier, I'm feeling very much that there'll be something around the archangel energies that want to come in and give us messages as well. So we'll look to see what's coming forward there. In the meantime, take care and enjoy your June.